And you're able to see my shortcut workspace here in dot
Yep.
spots. Awesome. So yes, we took on this really big project, and that led to a brand new experience that we wanted to put in front of all of you as soon as possible to get feedback as we continue to work on this rebuild. So we did that through a toggle that you can control at your own instance level. So I'm here in Shortcut on the original stories page, and I can click in to try the new stories page. And here I am on the new stories page. I've been going back and forth in this instance, and I was working in stories that I'm following, which is a new space that I created in my TeamScope stories page. So I want to walk all of you through some of the areas of this page now that we've rebuilt it from the technical side to optimize performance, and also the UI side to make things a little more up to date and set the foundation for additional features we want to build on top. So first, with spaces management. You used to have a list of spaces on the left-hand side of your screen. Now they're in tabs, and in your space tab list, you can curate that list and add as many spaces as you would like to that list. So if I want to add dots refinement, I can add that to my list, and I can also sort this list by dragging and dropping the tabs. You can continue to add tabs. They'll scroll, so you can navigate several tabs, even if they continue on past your window. I want to call out the spaces menu, which we've brought to the tab list as well. So you have all of your spaces in this space menu that you can add to your tab list. We've also brought over the spaces from the original page over to the beta. If you go to your all work section and you go into your space tab list, spaces that were filtered across multiple teams were migrated over to your all workspaces menu. Spaces that were filtered and were formerly able to be accessed from your TeamScope stories page are accessible in your TeamScope spaces list. One thing to note about the spaces that have been migrated from the original page over to the new page is if you make changes to those spaces, those who are working on the original page won't be impacted by those changes. So if you make changes to a shared space, make sure that you share that link with folks on your team and they view it on the new page. They'll also see some treatment in the UI if it's an updated space, that there's a new version and they can click in and view that space on the new page. So that's space management, space migration. One other thing I wanted to call out about spaces is you'll notice we have these spaces with a team icon. We also have spaces in your all work with the shortcut icon, and those are actually pre-made spaces that we made accessible on the beta. These are spaces that are shared with your workspace, or if in your TeamScope page shared with your team. These are spaces that you can use to view, for example, requested by me, owned by me, or all stories, which was everything, similar to the spaces that we had pre-made on the original page. But these spaces, admins can edit. And the reason why we enabled that functionality is so that way, if you and your team or you and your workspace want to view all stories, for example, but you want to filter out your Icebox workflow state, you can do so as an admin, save those changes, and you can ensure that everyone is looking at the same view. If you want to create the same view all stories as your own space, no problem. You can do save as and make a private space for yourself. Also noting that this pre-made spaces that were on the original page, we've migrated over as personal spaces in your all work menu, if you're looking for those. Okay, so that's everything about spaces on the new page that's available now. I also wanted to touch on filtering and changing the views on an individual space. So you'll notice The UI for filters has been brought to the top, and all the filter types have been brought into the same menu. You can also click in and search for the type of filter that you're looking for, add that filter, go in and select your values. And you can search for example, an epic within the dropdown as well. So let's say you're making a bunch of changes to your space, but you want to go back to what you originally saved or go back to all stories. Very easy, go into the dropdown next to the save button, undo changes, and you've reverted back to your original space. Another functionality that we have now made available on the beta that was just launched today is adding an matches any group or an or operator group. So let's say you want to create a space where you want to view stories that you're either following or that you own. You can do that in this group. You can also add individual owners here in your team. To make things a bit more visible across your entire team. Awesome. And of all of the stories that are in this team, we've got one teammate that's owning a story. So that's the use case, one of the use cases of the Matches Any filter group. And feel free to ask questions. We'll address those at the end of the presentation if you have any about all this new UI that we have on the stories page. As I mentioned, we're still working on the page. And so keep an eye out for more and more functionality that we're going to be shipping to this page while we're still in beta, because we want to support all the use cases you had on the original page.